Yes. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Test 1 2 1 2. There are dogs, yes. Taking care of some dogs for a frickin' week. And they are crazy. All right, let me get going, guys. 1 second. Okay, welcome everyone to the Pro Trader Room Plus and the Market Open. My name is Lee Goldstein, the Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember, all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. I'm not a financial advisor. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. Okay. Another day, another day. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. There is a YouTuber called the Philly Captain. Great YouTuber. In fact, there was a Netflix movie called The Turnaround about the standing ovation that Philadelphia Phillies fans decided to give Trey Turner, the $350 million player who was performing horribly the first year that he came over to the Phillies. $350 million they paid this guy, like a 7-year contract. What is wrong with professional sports? They're insane. The world is insane. I mean, there's nothing else that you can say. Um, and, he still will always be an underperformer. He'll always make the wrong play at the heat of the most important moment. And, but this Philly captain guy, if he is a really interesting YouTuber, and he starts every video off, here we are. That's his like trademark, hello. But he does a lot of information about the houses that George Washington lived in. Philadelphia, as a city, has an amazing collection of Revolutionary era. It's the Constitution was everything was signed here. Declaration of Independence. It's like an amazing place. And a lot of what he does is, I think he started, interestingly, by walking through dying malls, and he was like pointing out malls that have died. And he's morphed into this really interesting YouTube channel. He does a lot of sports, which people not from Philadelphia probably wouldn't like, but he does a lot of interesting history, walking through the history of Philadelphia, which is it's an amazing city. To when the government reopens to go on a tour, the Liberty Bell is here. It's really interesting place. So, um, yeah, Arthur. I mean, the way they're paying these ball players is insanity. I don't know why they want to do it. If I were an owner, I wouldn't pay that kind of money for anyone because none of them last those for those kind of contracts. And look at Soto. He had a good year, not a 100, 200, $300 million year. Nobody's worth that. That's just the reality. Nobody. It's stupid. It's really stupid. Anyway, um, this is a long trade room to get set up for a market open. A couple of things that I could do better, that I would like to try to do better. I would like to try and catch more of the move. We're we're leaving a lot of money on the table. it seems. So I'd like to think about trying to catch more of the move or entering after the original trade maybe more often. It's something I'm definitely thinking about, trying to uh, increase our profits. Yesterday was a day where unfortunately we didn't trade the YM. It's nobody's fault. I was just looking at gold. You can only look at so many things at once. And like I said yesterday, we made some money on gold and missed the YM. The YM had a phenomenal open. It really was monstrous. And I feel like we missed a lot of the MNQ move after the open. It just kept going up, 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 up. Sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes there's no reason why that happens. There's not news. It's just the market being the market. Definitely. Yeah, Francis, talking about Philly being on a bucket list, it's a really, people say crime is rampant, and I actually part time live in one of my daughter's houses. She's a landlord, a small landlord, not a rich, wealthy, greedy landlord. She owns a couple of houses and they rent them, and they haven't raised their rents. They're the nicest landlords that ever lived. They haven't raised their rents in like 3 years to people. Um, and I live, and she's in tough neighborhoods. Her houses are in tough neighborhoods. And I live in one of her houses part time, but a lot of time. My office is in her house, and the neighborhood is tough. But and yeah, there's crime, but there's crime in the suburbs. There's crime everywhere. I've never had any problems. It's a nice city. It's got problems like any other city, but it has a monstrous amount of fantastic history. Fantastic history. And some companies have chickened out. Companies that supposedly love Philadelphia have chickened out, like Wawa. Wawa has closed downtown stores. What they should have done was hired some security temporarily when they were going through some shoplifting issues, but instead they closed the stores. They want our money, but they don't want to stand behind us when things get tough. And one big problem in all the cities, in my opinion, is they don't prosecute retail theft. Retail theft and quality of life crimes should be upgraded to more serious felonies than they are, because they're the worst kind of crimes that people have to deal with, and they make life really miserable. Um, so that's something that I think lots of cities have done wrong. They have decriminalized a lot of what they call minor crimes, but a lot of the minor crimes really damage the quality of life. And that's really, really negative. So here's the other thing I want before we get started. I just made this list of people I'm not interested in hearing their name ever again. And I thought I would give you this list. Um, Chris Jenner, Megyn Kelly, Stephen A. Smith, Deion Sanders, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, Bill O'Reilly, Candace Owens, and Bill Maher. Those are people, if I never heard their names again, my life would be better. All right, that's that. Lots of the cities, they lock up the stuff, the clothes, the food, not the food, but the um, products. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. These are billion-dollar companies, and they could have security if they need it. Have security temporarily until shoplifters realize it's not going to be easy to shoplift there. You have to change the behavior in the stores. Anyway, that's not what we're here for today. Let's talk about the open. Let's talk about the open. Yeah, finding people to work is a big problem because the companies, you know, they don't want to pay a living wage. So here's part of the problem. Inflation is so out of control that it's hard to make a living wage at a lousy job, for instance, and pay any of the bills that you have. It's really tough because inflation is totally, there's no such thing as 2% inflation or 3% inflation. Food inflation is 50% at least. Medical inflation, bills, 50% easily. Insurance costs, everything is monstrously up. They're just totally lying about inflation. Everything you pay for is up. So how do you work? How does someone who works at a Wawa pay for all the things they need to pay for? It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that if you're, maybe you were just didn't have opportunity to educate yourself properly. Some people just screw up, and I don't know what the answer is. I just don't know. Anyway, let's talk about the open. So MNQ is my middle chart or my right chart. All right, I'm doing the MNQ, and I guess I'm going to do the YM again. Now, yesterday, one of our members got filled on the wrong side. And we looked at the recording, and the MNQ also almost filled on the wrong side. And it's just when orders are placed on the chart, they're always placed at a slightly different time for every member, even though when we set up the strategy. And when you look at the activation time, so if you look at the strategy that I'm using, the MNQ open strategy, everybody has the same activation time. But what happens is in that second when the orders are going on the chart, in that second, your orders might go on a couple of nanoseconds after mine, and the price might be different than when my orders went on. And that's why there could be a 2 or 3 tick difference. And that 2 or 3 tick difference in a fast moving market can be the difference between getting filled long or short if the bracket almost gets touched. So that's why it's possible for one person to get filled one direction and another person to get filled in the other direction. And there is no perfect answer for that. Yes, you can always make your bracket a little bit bigger, but there's still going to be that time where the bracket's going to still hit the edge of the bracket and the same exact thing could still happen. Finding the right bracket it's an average. The bracket is not always perfect when it's a 30. Sometimes one day a 32 bracket would have been perfect. It's just the way it is. And there's unfortunately not a perfect solution for solving that. Sometimes a range trade will be a little bit better for entry direction because it's not quite as closely tied to 1 or 2 ticks. It uses more of a range that has to be broken. So we did have MNQ and NQ and YM range setups for the opens also. And I think some people are using ranges. Certainly, I know people are using it on the YM. I have not heard if anyone's using an NQ range or not. Anyway, on my MNQ, we're triggering at 929.59. The bracket is 30. Position 1 and 2, those are the number of contracts you're choosing to trade. And that's up to you. You don't have to match the number of contracts that I'm trading. That's not in stone. Everybody makes their own risk choices, and number of contracts controls the risk. All right. So 25 target, target one, 50 on target two. And then when my first target gets hit, I try to get my stop out of the way by moving it to break even minus 40, and my stop loss is 100 ticks. I'm going to put the time on 0 because we always like to check the wideness, the width of the bracket. Label the trade MNQ open. And we have a nice manageable bracket. We're not at the highs and lows today. For the first time in ages that we're not at the highs and lows on the open. I'll go back to 9, 29, 59. Bracket of 30, target 25 ticks. Target 2 is 50. Position 1 and 2 is your number of contracts. Stop is 100, and then the target 1 stop BE minus 40. Label your trade. I just label it MNQ open. Doesn't matter what you label it, just so every trade that you label is clearly identifiable what type of trade it is. We know the open is a breakout. You could call it MNQ BRK. That, might even be clearer. And then choose the account you're trading it on. So we have our market open account. Then put your chart trader on that account. And then turn on the trade by pressing the enabled button. Looking at our account, number 15, we've just been treading water for weeks. 51,593. We're a little bit less than halfway to getting this account funded. And we're kind of treading water, not losing, not winning. So we need to try and change our focus a little bit, try and get some more money out of this. We're going to set up a secondary trade, reverse continue, add the same strategy, but change it from breakout to reverse continue. And I'll do a couple of contracts on the MNQ, and I'll do a target of 40. I'm only trading one position, so you don't do anything except a target, a stop, and a position and number of contracts. Position 1, and then the number you put in is the number of contracts. I use a 75 tick stop on my discretionary after the news setup, and I label it REV reverse MNQ CONT continue. Reverse MNQ continue, same account, number 15. Apply it, okay it, and our MNQ is ready to go. YM. And the YM is a little bit closer to the high of day. If you look at a 15-minute on the YM, overnight, it made a new low. It recovered about 80% of that. And it's sitting at about 50% since it made a new low. It's consolidative right now. Not a big trend in the markets at the moment. Right click on strategy. And we're going to double click news trader. Load our YM template. Load YM open. And I'm just looking. So 10.6 YM, right click. I'm going to rename it. Today is already the 9th. 10.9. Load it. And we're triggering at 9:29:59. We've got a bracket of 30. Bracket of 30. And I'm just trying to think what I want to do. One position at the moment. I'll go for a 30 tick target, 25 tick target today. I'm thinking of just a scalp today on the YM. One position. Our stop is 35. I'm going to make our stop 45. One position. If the market moves 20 ticks in my favor, I'm going to move the stop to break even plus 16. Break even plus 16. All right. And I'm going to set the time to 0 for a moment just to look at our bracket. See how that's a little bit big on the bracket? There we go. So that's a more normal chart. So if we go test the high, we'll have a winning trade. If we go test the low, we'll have a winning trade. You could trade a magnet YM this morning. If you didn't want to do the breakout, for instance, you could set up a magnet trade. In fact, it's not a bad way to trade it. It's definitely not a bad way to trade it. We're in the middle. How far away are we? So we're 866, 70 ticks or so. It's not that much. 70 ticks away from the upper magnet, probably a little more. 9, about the almost about the same from the bottom. We're kind of almost in the middle. So you can always trade a magnet in the morning. Magnets are pretty interesting on the open. Why don't we try a magnet open? So I'm going to turn off my breakout. All right, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to set up a YM magnet. Double click magnet, high of day, low of day. Proximity gets a 5. Position 1 is default to 3 ticks before it gets to the magnet. Our stop's going to be 40. And this morning I'm just going to do one position. Let's see if we get a fill up or down and if it continues in that direction. So high of day, low of day is already set. Proximity is 5. Position size is 1 contract. Target is -3. And my stop is 40. I don't have to change anything else on the magnet. I do have to change the time I'm trading. And I'm going to still do it in 15 because it's a market open magnet. Calling it YM magnet trade. And now when we enable it, you have to set your entry orders. All right. My entry is this thick line. If we break the PP, you could do a custom magnet for the PP. It might be that might be a better trade. That might be a better trade. I'm going to do the high of day, low of day for now. I'm setting my orders 91.9. I want about a 15 tick profit. So 808 down to 791. And then this is 30. Our exit is 30. It's really 27. So I want my fill somewhere in that area there. So now my magnet is ready. I want to do a quick second setup, the reverse continue, one position on the YM, one contract, 30 tick target. We'll do a 35 tick stop. This is a reverse continue. Maybe the magnet doesn't get filled and we want to enter because we feel a trend. So it's a secondary reverse continue. Same account, label it reverse YM continue. All right. Apply it. Okay it. So if you want to make the magnet automatic, you press the button and make it purple. If you want to wait and see if the magnet is going to fill, then you could just wait until the open, and once the open comes, then you can turn on your trade. So quickly, the magnet setup. Proximity means nothing. It's just where the order shows up. You're going to move your order anyway. Proximity of 5 makes sure it doesn't get put into an order where it's going to fill. The magnet setup is almost always the same. The stop is 40 on the YM, one position, default, target -3 is default. The only thing is where you place your entry. That's it. It's where you place your entry. And if you redo the magnet, you have to reset it. I want about 15 ticks of profit if I get filled. So the exit is 3 ticks before it gets to the high or low. That's the default. 3 ticks, -3 before it gets there. And for members, there is a magnet class that everybody should watch that video. I think I'll post that video in our members area. So I will let the magnet fill if it should. I think it's possible we'll make either a new high or a new low on the open. It's a little far. I would almost wish it was a little bit closer. Not a lot, but a little bit closer. There is no time in a magnet setup. You either put it on automatic or you press the button right before the open if you want it to be automatic. Otherwise, you can wait until price heads to your area, the direction you're filling, and then you could turn it on. Or you could wait until it hits the order and then press the magnet entry button. I like to trade it automatic. I was trying to expand my MNQ and I did not get there in time. So my MNQ worked instantly for a profit. Instant. Now the YM, it's got to spend a little time making a decision if it's going to go one direction or the other. Okay? Now I like the magnet as a setup because would it have maybe filled? Did anyone get filled on a YM breakout with a 30 bracket? I don't think it moved 30 ticks, did it? Now, is the YM testing the low? If it does, the magnet will fill, right? it's really pretty choppy, directionally pretty choppy. So I don't know. I mean, it might fill and just chop around and ruin the trade. It's possible because there's not a great direction this morning, right? So I think there's extra risk because of that. It only needs a couple of ticks to get to that high. We don't need a lot. We're not asking for a lot. It's not a very big target. It's only about a 10 tick target. There we go. It wasn't even that. It was an 8 tick target. I only had an 8 tick target. So it tested the high, the magnet's over. It did work, but my target was a little bit too close. My target was a little too close. But I'll take two small winners on a very non-directional kind of day, and I'm ready to move on to the next event in a little while, in a half an hour. I'm okay because we're close. Either range, either direction could have worked this morning. Either direction. It could have gone and tested the low because we're very close to the low also. All right. So everybody, I would think, should have made money on the MNQ. It hit both targets right away. If you want to type in what happened to you when you're ready. MNQ looks like it's going to test the low. It's a little close already, right? Looks like it wants to test it. I feel like I've waited too late to get there, right? I've waited too late to get there. It's already there. Sander forgot to enable. That stinks. So everybody, don't forget, you always have our pre-trade checklist. You can always go back to the pre-trade checklist. You can download the pre-trade checklist in our file folder in the trade room. File folder in the trade room. All right. Label the trade, everything that we do. It's in the file folder. Not a bad idea every now and then to just use it just as a refresh. Never hurts. All right. Okay, everyone on YouTube, thanks for joining us for a quick winning market open. We will be streaming tomorrow morning, and we're going to stream University of Michigan consumer sentiment tomorrow morning. So thanks for joining us on YouTube. Hit the like button, and we'll see you tomorrow on YouTube. Thank you.